Hello and welcome to the Minds on the Frontline podcast. I'm Jeff Lassers, one of your hosts, and I'm a professional firefighter, paramedic, educator, and content creator. My co-hosts today are Mike Matter, a firefighter, paramedic, and peer support team expert, and Scott Taylor, a retired police officer and the lead peer with the FST5 program. In this episode, we continue our series examining how Michigan recognized gaps in mental and behavioral health support for first responders, and how those gaps eventually led to the development of the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. Conversations about mental health in first responder communities are not new. For decades, firefighters, police officers, EMS providers, corrections officers, and dispatchers have understood that this work carries unique stress and long-term impact. Employee assistance programs and critical incident stress debriefings were early attempts to address those challenges. Over time, however, it became clear that these efforts were often inconsistent and limited to individual departments. At the same time, first responders were facing increasing call volumes, longer hours, disrupted sleep, and cumulative exposure to trauma over the course of their careers. Leaders across several organizations began recognizing that these issues were shared across disciplines and that stronger collaboration might create better support for all frontline workers and their families. Conversations between the Fraternal Order of Police, the Police Officers Association of Michigan, and the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union eventually helped bring lawmakers and state partners into the discussion. Those efforts, developed over years, helped lead to the creation of the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. In this episode, we focus on the MPFFU's perspective within that effort. Our guest today is Matt Sahr, president of the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union and a professional firefighter paramedic. The MPFFU represents more than 8,000 firefighters through nearly 150 IAFF-affiliated local unions across the state. In Michigan, the MPFFU advocates for career fire service professionals on issues such as labor representation, legislative policy, workplace safety, and firefighter health and wellness. During the conversation, Matt discusses how the MPFFU approached the issue of mental and behavioral health, why collaboration between organizations was critical, and why supporting firefighters requires addressing more than just traumatic calls. This conversation is the third installment in our Building FST5 series. Be sure to also check out the other two episodes in this series. Episode 74 with Mike Sahr from the Fraternal Order of Police, and Episode 76 with Jim Tignanelli from the Police Officers Association of Michigan. Minds on the Frontline is presented by the Frontline Strong Together 5 program. FST5 offers 24/7 mental health and crisis support for Michigan's first responders and their families. If you or someone else you know needs help, call 1-833-34-STRONG or visit fst5.org to learn more and explore our free training options for Michigan's frontline agencies. Wayne State University administers FST5 with grant funding from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Together, we're dedicated to strengthening the health, resilience, and well-being of Michigan's frontline community. Please follow us on social media and enjoy the show. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, man, it's good to see you again. Why don't you kick us off? Tell everybody who you are, what you do, where you do it. You got more than one role, so take your time as not just the firefighter and also the president of the MPFFU.
Yeah, so I am Matt Sahr, president for the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union. Also still working as a firefighter paramedic in the city of East Point. Married, 2 kids, and continuing to try to move this union and the fire service forward.
Awesome, man. Well, the 3 primary things that unions go after are wages, hours, and working conditions.
Correct.
The mantra.
The mandatory subjects.
And we are in downtown Detroit. You can't get more union than sitting in a place like this. Many unions met in these local areas here. And so it's easy for us to understand the power of the unions, the need for the unions, and those 3 things, wages, hours, and working conditions. The reason they're so important is because they affect the life of every single union member.
They do.
The labor, the units, the commodity of the townships and cities, this is the humans that you need to invest in. Would you agree?
100%. I assure you, the mandatory subjects of bargaining, the health and safety of our members, those things matter. Like right now, you want to go out and get it. You want to be the guy that, I can't wait to catch a job, man. Cool. You don't think I like it too? But I promise you, at some point in your career, those jobs are going to go, man, my back hurts, my ankles hurt.
Yeah.
My shoulder hurts.
Yeah, you got to plan on the future and invest in it. And the reason I bring up those three things is to connect the dots to the next thing here. Now, all unions, no matter what, whether it's the fire service, law enforcement, making a vehicle, doesn't matter. Those three things are the top things because they can help facilitate our life and provide the things we need. If I don't have good health care, I can't afford the therapy I need for my hurt back, which is going to affect my mental health, and then all the calls I got to deal with. So from the MPFFU's perspective, what factors led the union and maybe all the unions to participate in the early conversations to really address the mental health and behavioral health that is the result of those three things we talked about?
It's important to note that when they created this, going on 15 years probably now, going back to Mark Doherty, Steve Heim, Sean Abbey, that were instrumental in making this happen, mental health wasn't new. We've been talking about mental health for 25 years. When I came on the job in 2003, we were talking about having EAPs, critical incident debriefings. We were having those things then. So this isn't exactly like a brand new subject, but I think we recognized over time that, man, there's a lot of things going on here. And it evolved into maybe we can put our resources together and help a greater group of people. And I think that's how that developed there. I believe it continues to evolve.
Right on. And how did that collaboration between the three unions, how did you guys all come together? Because when those three groups get together on the same team, how powerful is that?
Well, when we're talking about law enforcement and the fire service and in general, first responders in Lansing, of course, we get a little bit more leverage and they might listen a little bit more. But ultimately, what does Lansing really care about at the end of the day is money and how much money they're going to be able to move and how they can support you without giving you any money, right? So when that came about, they were all on the same page. We were able to work it into the budget, and I believe that was working with the governor's office and the legislators, working with the appropriations committee, and then showing the evidence of what is actually happening, whether it be firefighter suicides or first responder suicides, whether it be mental health struggles. Anytime we're going into a subject together and we're all on the same page, police and fire, we'll just call it that helps. And so I believe the driving force behind it, though, was ultimately time. It took a lot of time and effort. It wasn't an overnight thing. This wasn't something that these guys, they didn't just sit at over a bagel one day up in Lansing and said, hey, what we should do? We should do this. And then they called over to Tiganelli and Sauger and it was done. That didn't happen. It was a long time. It was Mark going to these guys saying, hey, are you interested? We're interested in that. Right. We'd like to pick that ball up and then growing it from there. But it's important to note, it didn't start there. It was 20 years prior to that. If you go back and talk to other DVPs, they'll say, man, we've been doing that since 1990,
Fire industry is way ahead of the other disciplines as far as the mental health support. Yeah. You guys are on it way before law enforcement even considered it.
Yeah. If you guys know me, you know my heart on the sleeve. So I'll just tell you, I believe that, the first responder community, sometimes because of what we do and how we do it, it takes a special person, right, to do the job. Yeah. It's not cut out for everybody. Should have the opportunity, but it's not really for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. That's a fact. We can't pretend around that.
I like to say people that get into the first responder industry aren't right to begin with for the most part. They're not the norm.
Right, they're not the norm. Right. So that brings me and Scott brings a great point, and it's like, how do we dance around it? But sometimes we attract sick people. Let's just be honest with ourselves, right?
There's certainly a connection between somebody's acute drive to help people and maybe even recent or childhood problems, right? Mike, chime in here. Isn't adverse childhood score, ACS score, high associated with more frontline?
Absolutely. The ACEs scores across the board when it comes to first responders. And it doesn't matter if it's police, fire, EMS, dispatch, anybody, right? The people who had some type of trauma are always looking to help the next person. So that's the correlation between the ACEs scores and first responders.
And what you choose your path
It's like
in
you
life.
went through some stuff as a younger kid or adolescent, childhood, teenage years, whatever it might have been, right? It was a bad incident for you. You're trying to make it better because
it was
you went through
significant
some
enough
stuff.
where I'm changing my path based on it.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
And it's a lot of those incidences that shape us because even when you look at it, when we're in trouble and we're the person that needs help, what do we first do? We try to help other people first.
Sure.
And that goes back to where the ACEs scores comes in, and that comes with that traumatic kind of background.
A large number of us that didn't even realize we had childhood trauma.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's there, but we don't realize it.
It's not in the front objective thinking process every day.
Right, exactly.
I mean, you could go to everybody and say that there's some type of something that happened in their background, and you could probably try, doing research, you can be like, oh, that's what happened in your childhood. I mean, everybody had something, right? We're all,
That's kind of the point.
Something happened there, right? So how it affected you and what you did. And we focus a lot right now on the PTSD version, but I've been very outspoken in regards to that. We have more than just PTSD. We have anxiety, depression, people that are, manic, or the proper use of the screaming and yelling and the threatening. And you go, where did this collection of people come from? What happened here?
I want to come stay at your firehouse for the day, bro.
But it's like,
crew.
but the reality is, though, that's just society.
Yes.
It's not a
but you're right that
it's not a firehouse thing. It's like these are what people are dealing with, and it's in your face. So it's like, well, I think it's a bigger thing than just the fire service. It's probably more importantly a societal issue that you talk about it. And we're just lucky enough to have some resources here in Michigan that we can try to draw on.
So kind of talking about that, what are some of the long-term mental behavioral health challenges in the fire service that kind of reinforce the need that you said, hey, we need to work with Frontline Strong?
Well, one is the obvious one, right? The traumatic incidents that could shape you and hurt you. We know that is true. Like, that is a fact. That's an undeniable fact that things happen and people are affected by them, and they become, it changes the course of their careers. And some of them can no longer work because of those. How do we make it so that we are actually having open conversations? I don't ever want to see a group of individuals fall into the trap that it's going to be perfect, because it's just not. Life is not going to be perfect. You're going to have a bad boss. You're going to have a bad partner in life, whether it be, your husband or your wife or whatever. Those things are going to happen. It's how we react to them. And most of society reacts to it and they move on, right?
If they have resiliency.
Well, let's talk about it. You said moving forward, and we talked to Tiganelli and Sahr about a lot of the initiatives that the POAM and FOP are working on for officer health and wellness. What are some of the frontline wellness and health initiatives the MPFFU is currently working on? And with that, what problems are you trying to solve for the firefighters in that regard?
Well, first and foremost, Frontline Strong. We think that this is one of our champion things that we did as an MPFFU. We are not by any means diminishing what the POM and FOP did for it, but this was led by the MPFFU. We champion it. We're not going to go away from Frontline Strong and now develop another group or things that we want to do. I'm like, the resource is there. If you're getting funding, what are we doing? Why would we go a different direction? But we also have our mother union, the IFF. They've brought to us over the last several years that we've all known about. We just didn't have a name for it, is that resiliency, right? And so that is what we're focusing on. Want to talk more about is the resiliency. And part of that resiliency is having the conversations that we're having right now is like, hey, leadership issues. It's more than just PTSD. It's anxiety, depression. How do you deal with these runs? What is peer support? And what is actual peer support? Is peer support coming back to the firehouse and having laying down on a couch and getting diagnosed by your brother or sister? No. Just being able to have that open conversation while you're cooking or cleaning a truck, that's the peer support. We have communities that go on a lot of serious runs. Like, they might have a dramatic shooting or I'm sorry, I said dramatic, traumatic.
It could be both. It could be both.
Yeah.
But you have whether they be shootings, house fires, fatals, whatever that may be, and that's not all of our communities. So why is it that this group seem to never want to call and have a CISD or need it, and they seem to keep going on with life? But if this local group has one, they need it right now. And part of that is that resiliency, because they've come on the job at 22 or 23 years old, and they watch these old timers, and I'll say a guy with 5 years on the job at that point is an old timer to them. They watch how they react and how their day goes after dealing with it, and they become resilient with them. It's like that herd mentality, right?
Yeah, you have a good mentor.
Yeah, and they kind of go with it. They don't tell them to bury their feelings necessarily. Now, that used to be a thing, right?
Sure.
Like,
suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah, suck it up. But you see how they deal with it, and that becomes part of that resiliency. Hey, what are you doing to, for a lack of better words, thicken your skin in regards to what we're experiencing and how we're dealing with it? Part of the other getting that education is seeing podcasts like this I mean, that sounds like a plug for you guys, but in reality, it's what it is. It's having a podcast where you have leadership that says, I understand and I feel you, and you may be sick, and I don't want you to be sick. But also, there's other people out there that I don't want to just have a thing that we just keep on telling people you're sick.
Right. Yeah, we don't want to reinforce bad feelings. We want to help you build resiliency.
We talk about, I don't want to take this from whoever brought this to me. They said, like, man, nobody's going to want to be a firefighter. And I'm like, well, why? It's like, well, if you become a firefighter, man, you're an alcoholic, you have PTSD, you get a divorce, it's all these, they're like, what are we doing to make it so, and the reality would be is this, we're talking about it. We're going to move on from these things. Everybody's lives have struggles. Everybody's lives are affected in different ways from the job. I mean, I could talk about the job and all the things that are stressing out. Look at the white papers based on our work schedule now that are coming out.
Yeah.
The 56-hour work week and what a scam that is and how they've beat us into the ground. And then they're like, I can't believe you guys are depressed and messed up and, you have all these health problems and you drink a lot. And it's like, well, now we're looking at it. Well, when you gave us that FLSA 56-hour work schedule back in the day and the government came and said, yeah, that's what it is, we weren't doing EMS. We weren't doing it. They were climbing up to a crow's nest to see if there was smoke so they could alert the horses to go get a fire.
Right.
Yep.
Now we're going, what did we...
Every medical, every all hazard,
we
every non-bad guy thing you could think of.
Yep. What did we do for the last 40 years? We show up at every elementary school and we tell them, when in doubt, just call the fire department. Right. Call 911.
Right.
And then our members are like out there that they're not realizing it, but then we get upset when someone says, your basement flooded? Why did you call us?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because when in doubt, call us. And then 911 does the same thing.
Well, at least turn the water off for you.
Right.
Yeah. Stop the problem from getting worse.
Right.
But what's then result of that? It's why we're always rated the highest and most trusted profession, because when my basement flooded, some firemen just walked through water in knee-high water and shut our water off for us. Yeah. So I'm not knocking it, but what I am saying is we're going on a ton of runs.
Yeah, it's certainly increased. And now the 56-hour demand, shout out to James Gearing down in Florida, who facilitates a lot of these discussions for 24/72 and all, basically just getting away from 56.
I will tell you, I encourage everybody to look at the hours worked and, see what we can do to try to reduce our hours worked, to increase our mental health and improve our home lives.
Yeah, and I think it's one drip in the bucket. We've talked about this a lot on the podcast where the sleep deprivation is one thing. You've got life outside. You might have a parent who's got cancer. You might have a sick kid. You might have life. We have the life stressors. We have the sleep deprivation. We have the traumatic stuff that you deal with. These are all little drips in our bucket that finally fill it up, right? And one of the things that we had talked about in the legislative agenda is PTSD presumption. We already have cancer presumption. They looked at our job and said, hey, listen, we know this job is going to cause cancer, so let's take care of it. So talk a little bit about the PTSD presumption that's being proposed or taken to Lansing and kind of what that looks like.
So we have PTSD presumption in there. We're working on that. That is going to be a big lift because we are trying to make sure that we do it right. We also can't make it so loose that all of a sudden, we have guys just running out of the job because of whatever happened. And I'll just say it, take advantage of it, right? So we have to make sure that we're doing it the right way and we're being thoughtful of that. We also want to make sure that the MMLs, the township associations, aren't making it so restrictive that it's worthless in print, right? So it's a slow burn. So I want to be careful on how we put that out and who takes it up before we ever put it out to paper. Because right now we could put it out tomorrow. It'll be out there, but it doesn't make it a good bill.
If you're looking at it and you say, all right, this is what you're looking at, what are some of the things inside of that you're looking that would make it a good PTSD presumption that's fair, like you're talking about? What does that look like?
We want to make sure that you have a diagnosis, that there is something that we can point to, and that they're getting the help that they need. Workers' comp that we always deal with, like, for you get injured on the job, and you potentially go off, right? If it was lined up with that and we could just insert post-traumatic stress syndrome in there, great. Let's just add it in there. The problem is that we'll never allow that. So what we're really looking for is the ability to, one, get our members the help that they need. What good did we really do if we put them off the job and didn't get them the help that they need? So we want to make sure that there's some
You want the
triggers.
right bill.
The right bill, right. Yeah. And those are the triggers I'm looking for. We have a bill that I believe is good, but right now, I don't know if you guys have watched or are paying attention to what's going on in Lansing. It's not exactly the climate of that anything is getting done.
Timing is everything.
So we have to sit on it, wait, see, and then move forward. And I believe we have the best bill. I wouldn't say the best bill. I'm sure there's somebody that's got something better than I would. But working with our lobbyist, Melissa McKinley, she's done a great job. We're reached out. We fit all those sources. We've talked to POEM. We've talked to the FOP. So it's going to be a collaborative thing. It's not going to be just a firefighter bill.
Well, the FST5, when we work together, we get things done. So for something like this, super important. Regardless of who's leading the way, we just all got to be on the same team.
Yeah, and if Tiganelli or Sagar were to call tomorrow and said, hey, we got this bill, we're going to put it up, which I believe they have some stuff floating around out there, I'm not necessarily opposed. We have to make sure that we're in there, because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but every time you go look in Lansing and there's a budget that's put out, the firemen seem to be an afterthought. And that's not a shot at the legislator, but it's what it is it's years and years of cultivating of what we actually do, right? We are a trade. You just don't put the wet stuff on the hot stuff. And if anybody that's a good fireman knows that, there's a technique, and it's an organized orchestra when you show up to a fire scene, and you can tell the ones that are not, right?
Sure.
So it is a trade.
All right, Matt, as we close out, what is one thing you want everybody listening to take home today from this conversation?
So the thing that they should take home today from this conversation, first and foremost, should be that the goal of the MPFFU in regards to mental health is to make sure that our members are, one, protected, and two, that they're getting the services that they need. And they can find those resources at Frontline Strong. We've had a lot of debate over the years about how we get those services to them. And we know that we have resources here at Frontline Strong, and there's a list of teams that will come out and service you and help your department and you. I don't know that it's so well known that you can come down here and get free clinical services.
Yeah,
you're a first responder.
Yep.
That's not well known. It's anonymous. You're not doing a podcast while you do it. You're going to there, you're talking with a doctor.
Yep.
And that is one thing that I want everybody to know about what we actually have here at Wayne State, and that is free clinical services.
Right. And you can do it virtually or in person.
And
you don't even have to come down. You can do it for your
That's a big one, because we're located downtown Detroit, and that's a big drive for somebody. For me, not so bad. But if I can do virtual visits, I'm going through their system, they're not charging me anything. Like you said, it's crazy how many people don't know this as much. But this is something we're actually going to be advertising more in the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Free clinical services, one, and then unrelated to just the clinical services would be that how we move forward is actually recognizing and stop preaching in the firehouses that mental health is fake. It's almost like the cancer presumption. I've heard over the years, you're predetermined if you're going to get cancer or not. That's garbage.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm like,
to a degree, but you could really speed it up.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah,
right. It's like, I don't know how much science you believe in, but there's some science, there's some markers that are definitely in your body, and if you're choosing to do these things,
right,
it's not a coincidence, right?
Right.
Who wants to sign up for that, right?
Right.
So there is a bigger chance that you are going to get these cancers, and the same with the mental health. The things that we do on the job and how we interact with our coworkers is a huge difference in whether we have people that are continuing to struggle or they're getting the help that they need. And those are just having those conversations.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
That was great.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Minds on the Frontline podcast. We have more great content coming out soon. Please check us out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. And make sure to like and subscribe to all Minds on the Frontline podcast social media channels. Thank you, and have a great day.